Okay guys, here with Ryan Wells, Arizona Dirt Bike Training. Let's see if I can learn how to ride a dirt bike. Love you.
Doing this YouTube video thing, we better do it right. So let's get the perspective of first lap. Get our first lap habits and see what we can break. So right now, our knees are going up by our gas tank. Very hard to weight your peg when your knees are in front of your toes. You need to keep your knees back. It also looks like that forces you to pull on your bars, which lets your chest come back, swings your knees even further forward on weighting your bike even more. Something in the beginning, we'll practice hinging at the hips and weighting our outside peg.
All right. Well, my front end shoveled on like most of those corners.
All right. It's hard. This is a very, very hard track to ride. All right.
You were doing it with one hand looking back? No problem.
I'm a jerk like that. I'm a jerk like that. I was talking to the camera for you.
Oh, that's cool. And I'm sitting here, you know, and the front end is drifting.
I figured that if we were going to do the YouTube video that I had to start from the beginning and get your first habits.
Yeah.
So that's why I pulled it out. And I was like, I'll be the jerk that talks to the camera.
No, that's cool. I like it.
So, what we can start with, what I can see and what I was telling this camera is your knees go up and you're trying to push your bike with your knees up on your gas tank. Maybe, I don't know if you've been told before by friends or someone to squeeze your tank, you know, things like that. I hear that a lot from people. I do squeeze my bike, but I'm squeezing my air box. I do not squeeze my tank.
Gotcha.
And so, with that being said, I'm gonna kind of jump around here for a second.
Sure.
And this will all tie back into my knees being off of my gas tank, my knees going back. But when you see a pro in a corner take their inside leg off, and I saw you try different things, sit down, leg up, leg down.
Yeah.
I saw you fixing your elbows. I saw you try to stand. I like that you're trying different things, right? But if I was to ask you, why does a pro take their inside leg up? Do you know the answer to that?
I was gonna say it's either two reasons: to weight the front and to get it out of the way of the rut.
Okay, out of the way of the rut, good answer. Weight the front, I would say that's a scooting up, but I want to show you right now, and I want you to feel it. So go ahead and hold your handlebars. I'm going to hold you up. I promise I won't drop you. Tell your wife, if I drop you, lesson's free. All right. So I need your utmost trust. I'm going to lean you into a right hand turn. Okay, you can feel all your weights against me. If you give me your boot here and put it into my hand, you notice when I bring it up, it forced this muscle to flex, right?
Yeah, and this.
And now you're pushing into your outer peg, and the weight is also no longer against me. But if I was to drop your boot to the ground, and even though your shoulders tried to weight the outer part of the bike, your weight still fell on me. And so if you bring that inside leg back up again, it unweights the bike off me, and as you bring your boot down, it brings your weight back to me. Okay. That is you sliding in a turn versus you getting traction in a turn. It could be getting your inside leg up high. I'm gonna let you go here. Sure. It could be the idea of getting your inside leg up high. That's a very simple solution, but the real answer is it's to weight the outside of the bike. When you bring your leg up, it forces you to flex this muscle. It's just how the human body works. And so when I'm standing doing my laps, I'm doing this now. I'm sure we've all been given sass before you're married. This is me weighting my outside peg, but your knees have to go behind your toes. So I'm turning left, I'm turning right. But now if I put my handlebars back in my lap, my shoulders don't move. I was riding in front of you, controlling my throttle, videoing, weighting my outside peg, pushing weight into my outer peg. Now, if I go back to this idea of squeezing our gas tank versus squeezing our bike, if I put my knee in front of my toe and I force weight, it's pushing weight to the front, but your chest being up over the bars and your elbow being up is your weight to the front. You need something to weight the back so your bike stops sliding. Now, if I brought this toe or my knee behind my toe, now when I go to apply weight, see how now it squats the back of my bike. And so when I ride a dirt bike and I'll do a few figure eights in front of you, when I push weight into my outer peg, my knee needs to come behind the ball of my foot. Whether we're sitting right now or standing, I don't care any of that. I want you to just practice these laps of weighting your outside peg.
Okay.
So I'll let you go from
Am
there.
I doing anything in particular that's causing my front to wash so bad? Because I mean, that's why I was trying to get forward. I'm like, to get weight on the front, but.
Let me ask you this. It's hard to see hands when I'm right in front of you. How much front brake are you using? 0?
0 or almost 0. I didn't feel like I was going fast enough to really need brake.
Okay.
Should I be dragging?
Earlier you said, when I ride my buddy's 350, it does feel
More planted.
That's the engine brake allowing the front end to plant. On a 2-stroke, I ride, even like riding in front of here, giving you little demonstrations. This front brake is always pretty much being dragged.
Okay.
Almost the whole lap. And then, if you're going from no brake to grabbing your brake, yes, it will knife.
Sure.
But if you can begin to drag your brake before the turn begins, and then you're in the turn, you then have the chance, if it starts to knife, I can release my brake. If I'm pushing, I can grab my brake a little bit. So now, let me go back into this circle. So my weight goes to weight my rear, but this front, my weight is the front leg. It's all that brake. I'm dragging it that whole time. Well, stalled it, but you get the idea.
Yeah.
Even in trying to balance going slow, you have to have that. Along a single track, holding myself in a rut, I'm using that front brake almost the whole time. Man, it is crazy slippery, but you get the idea. I bet your front is pushing because you're not using your front brake.
Okay. I thought the freer the front was, the less likely it would be to shovel, but I guess I'm just...
Yeah, so there is if you never use the brake and you begin to use it, there's gonna be a 3 to 5 lap learning curve.
Okay.
You know, but if you can get comfortable dragging and using your throttle and your brake together, your bike is moving together in the sense of when I slow down with my throttle, I let off the gas, I'm immediately beginning to brake. It plants my front wheel. You're also eliminating coasting when your bike is unweighted. When you coast, your bike is unweighted. So I drag my front brake until it's time to accelerate. I will even accelerate a little bit as I'm off the brake. Once I'm, of course, half throttle wide open, there's no brake, but the second I let off, you have to plant one part of the bike.
Do you ride with your finger always on the front brake then?
Yeah.
All right.
I'm almost pointed, like,
yeah.
This goes into then, man, we're covering a lot of topics here. If we are thinking about too much, let me know, but
no.
You're asking good questions.
Yeah.
People always say elbows up. If you grab your handlebars straight and then force your elbows up, it binds you all up, it arches your back. I would never tell you that sense of elbows up. It's how you grip your handlebars. I'm pushing on the outer palms of my hands and I'm pointing my fingers
inward
towards my front fender.
So I almost got to like slide them in a little bit more.
Yeah, so that's another thing you can see. Well, yours are far over. I do that.
It is these two, so they're shorties.
So that helped. I see a lot of times when people's perches are like right here, their fingers are doing that, and that's where their elbows come in. But I'm pushing on the outside of my hand here. You can see where my grips wear, and I point my fingers. These other parts of my hands just kind of relax. Okay. And so yeah, I'm always kind of in a constant, my throttle and my brake work together, and it's always right in there.
All right. So then I just got to get used to riding with my finger here.
I think you need to get used to, yeah. So that might be weird. So I'm going to give you probably five or more laps right now.
Now, I noticed there was some ruts in some of these. Am I supposed to be hitting those? Or you want me to just do the flat?
So I'll tell you this, that the reason that we'll probably be on this track an hour or so and why we're going to do 5 laps at a time is right now, I could say, yes, I want you to set up wide, join that rut. But if you start thinking about hips back, weight my peg, drag my brake, set up wide, this and that, you're thinking about too much. I think pretty soon, when you start thinking about 30 things at once, you're not gonna go anywhere. Sure. But if we could do 5 laps of dragging the front brake.
And weighting the outside peg.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then even if it's however many things you can think about, if you can do drag the front brake and weight the outside peg, take any line you want, then our next topic when dragging the front brake and weighting your outside peg is a muscle memory, you do it without even thinking, then we work on line choice. If it's also kind of I want to watch you ride and see what 2-3 things do we need to work on in this first 30 minutes so that in the rest we can. The ruts and the line choice and this and that is, yes, I do want to be able to hit them and be able to do that, but you have to be able to successfully drag your front brake to guide yourself into a rut. Okay. You need to be able to weight your outside peg to pull out of a rut. And so, step by step, you got it. Thanks. So right now, any line you want, you can stand up or sit down wherever you want. I'll go over that later. If you see a cone pop up, ignore it until I tell you what it means. I'll wave you off when I'm ready for you to get something new. So right now we'll practice that weighting the outside peg and dragging our front brake.
All right.
All right, you're up. Corners are getting smoother. We're on lap, let's say 7. Corners are getting smoother. We're starting to try and move our shoulders instead of our hips, which is bending our spine. This isn't a pull our shoulders to weight the outside peg. I want you to actually be pushing that hip out, pushing that foot into the peg. Let's see how we come around here next lap. Wish I could get up on that front brake, but it's hard to see. Getting smoother, we could begin to accelerate a little earlier, so it pulls us out of the corner smoother, but it's getting better.
Oh yeah. Just wanted to stop and say, I've never felt less coordinated in my life all of a sudden.
So, what I see, and this actually reminded me of kind of a topic Earlier you said, I'm trying to weight my front more.
Yeah.
But you are trying to weight your front more by bringing like your hips up.
Uh-huh.
But when your hips go forward, you're like unweighting. It's just throwing energy nowhere pretty much. Like your hips go this way, you're pulling on your bars. It gets that random whiskey throttle. But your energy on the bike is just kind of thrown out your kneecaps. It doesn't go into your pegs. It doesn't go to your front wheel. If you want weight to that front wheel, you need to hinge at the hips.
Yeah.
And push on top of your bar.
Should I feel like I'm like putting a lot of weight on there?
I feel like you want to lean against your bars.
Yeah.
Not pull on your bars.
Fair enough.
And so, like I see when you start to make mistakes, you go into hips over tank, like this tensed up pull.
Yeah.
And that's 99% of riders. That's the human nature. Now, I want you to try to get out of that habit to where when you go into a corner, you hinge at the hips, which pushes weight into a peg, and then it also leans your weight onto that outer handlebar, and you're in that position right here. It might even feel like your throttle should not feel like you are twisting.
Yeah.
You are using a screwdriver. When you are leaned into a corner, going around that way, I am pushing into that Phillips head and loosening the bolt. I'm not twisting my arm, I'm not.
Yeah.
And I think that's where your body, you're growing into this.
Yeah.
And we need to go into that. We're getting there. You're at least learning now. Some laps you're getting it right and it clicks, feels good, and you at least notice when you get it wrong. That means we're learning. Takes a little while. There's of course going to be a curve, but we're getting better. We're getting better. We're learning control. We're also learning how to correct our mistakes. So when we ride and we're fighting the bike being slippery, instead of blaming our tires, we can go to what can we change with our technique? How can I be better? How can I adapt to the terrain? How can I weight my peg more? We're learning. Something I haven't talked about, but you do it very well, is you look ahead. Most people really struggle with that. Really struggle with looking ahead, and you do that very well. It's a good turn there. Eyes up, weight to that outer peg. I can't wait for you to rewatch that, because you just had like the 3 smoothest turns in a row. Killed it with the rear brake. Should just lean into that sucker and accelerate it out. Momentum, momentum. We're going to use that rear brake. We should use it before the turn, slow ourselves down. Once the turn begins, front brake only and throttle.
Like that?
Yeah.
More or less?
Yeah.
Now, if I could just not chicken out when I'm actually turning.
Commit to it.
Yeah.
So you definitely do want to lean, but when you start leaning, that inside leg has to be up to force weight. Something else with leaning is you have to then tie that lean in with an acceleration. So that was going to be my next topic of when do I sit? You know, you're telling me now to go from standing to sitting, but if you were to sit right here, you're going to plant all this weight right here in the corner, and then by the time it's ready to accelerate, Your suspension's now rebounded, the bike's unweighted.
So you sit like...
I sit when you are ready to accelerate. I brake while standing. I sit down and force the weight. So whether that means...
So when do you kick the leg out if you're... or do not bother most of the time?
Here, I'll steal your dirt bike again.
Yes, sir.
So to tie in the idea of I brake while standing, and I sit when it's time to accelerate.
It's gonna be really embarrassing watching myself do this after watching you, Ryan, do it. All right.
So at every turn, the idea would be, right when I sit, I begin a one constant smooth acceleration. I accelerate until I'm ready to brake, and I stand up when I brake. And then I sit down when it's time to accelerate again. So I eliminate coasting, and my bike is always being planted or weighted to the ground in some way. Them hips don't lie.
Back resting time.
What's cool is right now I'm looking at the timer on the camera, and before you were 59 seconds or so a lap, I'd talk to it, we'd be at a minute mark. And right there you just came through at 48 seconds while saying, I made a mistake. So we're getting smoother, we're getting faster, we're eliminating coasting. We're going in the right direction. All right, form's getting better, technique's getting better, your overall speed and confidence is getting better, but now we're back to, since you're going faster, you're fighting how to brake. And so what I want to point out is the lap before you were going rear brake, this last lap you did no rear brake, you're trying to use your front because that's what I want. Now I want to talk about this real quick. We need to start to brake earlier. It is okay to brake sooner, give up a half a second entering the turn so that you can accelerate smoothly and gain infinite time. You know,
okay,
you can't guesstimate how much time you'd gain because you might have slid out. You could gain 2 seconds or 50 seconds, but the idea here is brake earlier, where you're trying to brake with your front brake in the last 6 feet like you would that rear brake. Oh shit, time to brake.
Yeah, I just thought I was coming in so slow anyway that if I did it later, maybe it would load the front a bit because I'm coming in like a...
I mean, you could, but I want a constant applied smooth pressure, and it's slowly getting harder, just like I slowly roll the throttle back on out of the turn. And then I want to point out, when you use, anytime I would use my rear brake, I always stand. If you were ever to be sitting and use your rear brake, it's every time gonna cause a skid. Because when you are sitting, your toe can either be on the foot peg or on the brake pedal, but there's no control to modulate. Versus when you stand, there is control to modulate your brake.
Yeah.
And so that's something to think about too. If you're gonna use your rear brake, I stand up real quick, but
I only did that lap just
because you're going faster.
Okay, cool.
Right.
So just enter and
Yep. However you want to hop on it, and we'll go from there.
all right. I could have stopped there easy. Like that, yeah?
All right, so when the dust clears, I'll point out again. But that's why we're practicing this. Right now we were on the gas until here, we coasted. Till here, we used our brakes. To here, we released. Then we skidded a second time to come to a stop. So that means we could be on the gas to there and then brake one time to there. We're learning our limits. We're learning how long can I be on the gas to how hard can I brake.
Couldn't sit back up either. I died on that one. That's right, wide, wide, wide. I'm the same thing as last time. I guess I could go farther than I think I can. Just need to pull that.
Now that you got that braking down, like your braking is 100 times better. Like that, you're staying straight, you're controlled, and you come to a stop and like a fraction of the distance.
Yeah, the other times what I was doing, I was using the front brake and realizing I wasn't trying to cheat, but I realized, oh, I don't need to stop that hard to get into those things.
Yeah, and so that's where like you can.
All right.
You can start pushing it.
All right, then this time I'm probably gonna blow past because I'm gonna try pushing a little bit further.
Skidding through it. But that's how you learn. The other day, a student asked me to hit it as hard as I could, and I seriously I missed it by 30 feet. And then I had to redo it again. You know, it's like that's how you learn.
Yeah, and I'm not gonna fall off a cliff here, so no biggie.
No, yeah, we're good.
All right. I didn't tuck that one. My hit, I mean. Ooh, that was wider than I thought.
Closer, closer.
I thought I would blow it up.
dusting me out. We're learning how to use our brakes. It's good. Learning how to accelerate, learning how to brake. Ooh, look at learning how to weight them pegs. See how when we go into the left-hander, or I mean when we go into the right-hand corners, you're great at getting that left hip back. When we're going into a left turn, your right knee goes forward. Need to work on getting that hip back. You're pushing it though, that's good.
I actually got the front to shovel a little bit on that one.
But that one, that means you're starting to push yourself. That's good.
Yeah.
And then what's cool is now that you're going faster and braking harder here, it's like night and day how much faster you get back to me. From the time you leave, like you're just accelerating or braking and is so much smoother.
It's all you, Daddy.
You're getting better. Nice! Doing a good job weighting those pegs, looking through the turn. We're keeping that front end pretty planted. So that means that we're dragging our front brake a lot better. Although, you love that bush, man. I think to get rid of running into that bush, we need to set up a little bit wider. Set up wider, go around the bush, then cut in. We're excellent. I'm gonna let us change our track up again.
Good, my back was just getting to that fry point.
But night and day better. You're accelerating way harder, braking way better. And that last one where you came to a stop right at the end of this cone would have been perfect in a real life scenario where you just would have released your rear brake and continued into your section. But everyone always says anybody can go fast in a straightaway, but your straightaway speed from the vans to here is increased tenfold just by being able to brake better. So yes, anybody can go fast on a straightaway, but when do you need to let off that gas? How are you going to miss the turn? How are you going to, and that's where this drill's teaching you that, how to make every turn on the trail right, how to look further ahead, how to know how to brake.
Yeah.
So night and day better. All right, so this track is gonna tie in our accelerating, our braking, our corner form. We can sit into, I'd say, at least these 2 turns. I stand in the other ones. But the idea here is I stand up when I brake, so I can control the rear brake. I sit down when I want to accelerate. I want to start tying in all that on each of these laps. So if I give you, I could do a demonstration at somewhat speed and show you how I'm standing up when I brake. I still will sit for the turn. I'm looking ahead, but you should be able to tie in the 50 things that we've talked about today into this track.
Wow. Fuck you! Woo! right, you know this clutch lever is becoming a problem.
Yeah.
Because I was releasing to start accelerating.
There.
Yeah.
I'd say you were on your rear brake a little bit still, because I think you were sitting and
yeah,
a little bit.
I didn't get my foot off.
But yeah, I mean it stinks to stall like that, man.
It's all right. I'll unless you have a 2mm on you, I'll just.
I do it in my van.
I'll worry about it later. It's not
Okay.
that big a deal. Changing in the middle just fuck with me, but.
Hey, through all this section, like that little quick turn there, I bet you might look ahead down the straightaway, but you're target fixating on something that's forcing you to not look ahead.
You mean when I came out and went real wide right there?
Yeah, or like in a few laps I've seen you slow down for obstacles like that. Like I think you look well through the turns.
The rocks are catching my attention.
Correct. And I think you need to keep working on scanning, looking further
and
ahead.
just kind of let the bike deal with the rocks?
Yeah, ignore them.
All right.
You're technical. Now that you squeeze the back of the bike, not the front, you're going to track straight. Now that you drop your ankles, you're weighting the rear tire. That makes your bike a ski in the water and the in the rocks. It
is feeling better, but my habit is still like avoid the big rocks.
Yeah, it's funny. Like you should be able to start in proper form. You can smoke rocks at speed and it not kick you off your bike. But it's definitely, you have to get used to that.
All right.
So.
All right. Well.
Yeah, just keep practicing looking ahead, and I'd be off your rear brake a little sooner. But
yeah,
we're doing better.
Okay.
All right, well, that one we braked earlier. You were standing longer. You set up, you planted your bike in the turn pretty much perfectly. We just need to begin to accelerate at that point. Accelerate out of the turn. All right, back on the gas. Excellent. We can commit to staying on the gas there. Your setup was good. Your entry is good. You weighted the bike. We just needed to commit to that acceleration. Getting smoother. Time to start committing. You know what to do now. Form and technique is there. Time to commit.
And sit. Man. Yeah.
So that last one is like you could hear me through the camera is actually, other than, we're going to talk about the first half of the turn. The first, every lap you've come by besides the last one, you brake super late. You are on your rear brake all the way into the turn, then you fight that slide at the entrance of the turn, and then it's hard to accelerate out. My advice for that to the camera was begin to brake earlier, off your rear brake earlier, so you can accelerate sooner. You, that last lap, came on the gas, braked early, off your rear brake here, you stayed standing, you sat down, you planted your bike absolutely perfectly, but you forgot to get on the gas. And then that's when your bike coasted and pushed wide.
Yeah.
You're not going to be able to turn. You have to have something tracking. So remember, right when we sit, and it's not a...
Am I supposed to break it loose to get it to come around sharper?
No. It should be a, here. It should be a, your 0 to 100% constant smooth acceleration. But...
So that won't shoot me even wider than I was already going?
No, every time you chop the throttle, your bike will straighten out. Like if you were to try to ride a circle, you turn when you accelerate, you even turn when you brake, but when you coast, your bike straightens out. You make like a weird shaped circle.
That's counterintuitive.
And so same thing in this turn, when you begin to accelerate, you turn, but then you coast, you straighten out, you begin to accelerate hard for the straightaway and you finish out your turn. But I want you, instead of hitting 90% throttle for the straightaway, it should be you go from brake in, coast, and then just rip it. I want you to rip it at the same spot, but you got to go 10, 20, 30, 40. Like if I come into this turn,
bumpy. Woo! Cheated. I'm starting to fry in a couple plots.
You what?
Just
Starting to get tired?
yeah.
You're doing good, dude. They're starting to get way more consistent too. This turn, all the turns are starting to get a lot more consistent. I think now that you're going faster, now that your technique is getting better, we need to tie back into earlier. You're doing great at looking ahead, but I think now you're going faster than you're looking now, if that
Fair
makes
enough.
sense.
It's cold.
It's cold.
That is so cold. Woo! Hey guys. So, my main GoPro, the one that I was wearing on my helmet, ran out of memory card when I was towards the last hour with Ryan Wells. Thanks, Ryan Wells. That was awesome, man. That was great. It was exactly what I needed. As I mentioned, I'm sure several times in the video, I was doing exactly the opposite with my legs and hips and arms, etc. I was being, I don't know. I mean, I've watched enough YouTube videos to know that I should be doing different, but for whatever reason, it gets programmed in. I've been doing it the way I've been doing it. So yeah, weighting that outside peg with sassy hips, that helps. A little odd telling myself that when I'm riding, but hey man, it works. My laps were consistently getting faster, still slower than Ryan and everybody else for sure, but whoa! Okay. This thing drives like a brick. Yeah, like I was saying, my laps were getting faster. I was getting more confidence in my turns, standing and sitting. And again, thank you. That 4-hour one-on-one was well worth it. And I kind of gassed out at the end when we got to the whoops and whatnot. My back was just fried. Got no sleep last night, and I'm not an endurance monster anyway.